I'm wearing underwear today. Oh, God, it is the worst.
Welcome to GayTalk 2.0, the ultimate podcast for your dose of dish.
Well, I should say I've done it twice, and I don't do it again.
Proud of you. Welcome back, ladies and gents. We're back with another episode of GayTalk 2.0, an LGBT podcast streaming live on Digital Stream Radio, where you can access that live stream every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can do so by visiting digitalstreamradio.com. On today's show, we're going to welcome JP DerBoghossian. I think I said it right. He's the host of This Queer Book Saved My Life, a podcast that interviews guests from across the LGBTQ rainbow about queer books that saved their lives. He's going to join us on the second half of the show. My name is Tom, and I'm your host, and as always, I'm in the studio with these amazing people, starting with this first one over here.
Hey, y'all, Nick or Trish.
And
J-Bear, a.k.a. your boyfriend's boyfriend.
we need to make sure that at some point, we need to meet the boyfriend's boyfriend.
Boyfriend.
We've met a few, actually.
Is he real?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll need to find out at some point. Anyway, welcome back. It's our second official show on a Wednesday, and it's been crazy. It's very hard to get used to doing something new when you've been doing something so consistently for 6 years. Mm-hmm. I am a hot mess on a Wednesday. I never realized that.
Well, me too. I mean, so I work from home most Mondays, and so it's easy for me to, it was easier for me to kind of like transition and come over at a decent hour and make sure that I was prepped and ready. And now it's like, I'm in the office, it's like 4:45. I'm like, oh, fuck, I gotta go. And New Haven traffic, trying to get onto the highway, and then the 95 crawl.
It's the worst. And meaning when he says decent time, he means 5 p.m.
That's not true. I used to.
Am I lying?
No.
No, I mean lately, yeah, the past 2 weeks. But normally I'm here by like 3.
Yeah, no. For the most part, yes.
Yeah.
Unless I have a board meeting.
I just wanted to mess with you.
Yeah,
I enjoy messing with you.
So I told Jay earlier, yesterday I had a work event, and I was there until about 6 o'clock. And I get in my car and I'm driving home and I'm like, fuck, I have to be at Tom's.
But yesterday was Tuesday.
I know. But that's what I'm telling you.
So
like,
disoriented.
We're just trying to like getting into the rhythm.
It was us on Monday. That was that whole thing. I need my fix. I was so off. I feel so off on Monday.
It's a weird feeling, but hopefully, hey, you never know.
We'll get over it.
Maybe a year from now, we might go back to a Monday schedule. Who knows? But the point is, we have a commitment to do the show. We have a commitment to ensure that we're here weekly. We do take some weeks off, and that's okay. But in the end, we're sticking to what we love to do, right? And that's important. How are you, Jay?
Good. Not bad.
All is well in the land of Oz?
All is well.
Did you get rid of, your feeling of missing something on Mondays?
Not yet. Still working on it.
Still working on it.
But yeah, I don't know. For me, when you get into a routine, for me, as always, don't forget the laptop. That was like my main thing. It was my reminder for months. And then every Monday, it's like, okay, grab the laptop, make sure I don't forget it. Right. And every Monday, I still grab the laptop. And as I'm getting ready to leave my room, I laptop on one side.
Do you use it at home?
No. I only use it here. But the one time I did leave it here, I ended up needing it.
Yeah.
See, that's when you get an iPad.
Yeah. But
you got to get something
actually,
mobile.
I still have my Gen 1 iPad.
My mother has my Gen 1 iPad, believe it or not.
Wow.
But
that shit's a dinosaur. It charges with a bird walking on a treadmill. That shit's old.
So I want to, make it a point to ensure that we talk about the fact that Trish deserves.
She's confused, but we'll clarify.
She booked a guest.
Yeah. She's like, what did I do? What did I forget?
No, and I'm excited. So I took an opportunity today while I was at work, and I was doing, banging out some stuff to listen
What was his name?
some of the episodes on the show, and then also a recap of their seasons, and we'll ask a little bit more about this to get details, but it sounds like they're doing so it's seasonal podcasting, so they're doing seasons. And so they dropped season 1, season 2 comes out in October. But in the recap of, what they felt like that season went like, they were talking, and, JP actually disclosed that his producer is actually his partner, one of his partners, because he's poly. And so I'm interested. I want to know. I want to know all about the podcast, the dynamics of it, how the concept came up. But I'm also interested in this whole, trifecta.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the concept of the podcast is amazing, and
brilliant.
You know me,
brilliant. I'm
for running out of queer books to read.
I know his whole thing. I think that you probably should be a guest on their show for season 2.
I definitely think that I probably should, but it would be hard for me to choose what queer book saved my life.
I don't know. I mean, you always liked, what was the podcaster's name?
Dan Savage?
Dan Savage. And I think that, he's got some published works, but you were more so into the podcast. And you did say that, you listen to him a lot and stuff like that. So that could be a possibility. But I mean, there's a lot of things. You're an avid reader. You're not like me. I take naps for decades before I read another book.
I know. Oh, God.
Because you read a lot.
Well, I mean, by read, Audible. I listen to a lot of books.
Right, and that's okay.
I did read a book, though, when I was in Florida, but it wasn't a gay book.
What kind of book was it?
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's diversifying her portfolio.
No, it's called If the Buddha Got Stuck.
If the Buddha Got Stuck.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't want to call it a self-help book.
Okay.
But it's a life... basically, like, in your life, if you ever feel like you get stuck, like, how do you make your way through it?
Right.
And it comes with more of this, like, Eastern Buddhist type concept, and it's not that I'm stuck in my life, but I think that, like, in general, I'm at a place where I'm starting to kind of move forward in different directions when it comes to both sexually, relationships, my career.
I mean, you certainly need to
family.
explore options.
Yeah, because, like, everything. I think everything's kind of at this, like, pivotal point in my life, and it's not that I'm stuck. It's like, okay, so I'm at this place, and I just kind of wanted to, like, think more deeply about my next steps, if that makes any sense.
Amazon.com describes it as it says, if the Buddha got stuck brings a perspective on inspiring stories and useful exercises to feel less overwhelmed by life's difficulties.
Mm-hmm. Is that the actual word?
No.
I was going to say, wait a minute, that's ours.
Yeah.
That's ours.
Yeah. But
it really is a great book. Actually, to be fair, it was my second time reading it.
Nice. See, I've become very dyslexic when it comes to reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. I could read a sentence 8 times and it doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I've never been much of a reader. I have read in my lifetime maybe 4 books.
Yeah.
Tops.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that, because me and my brother were having this conversation the other day, because I feel as though I'm slightly dyslexic when I'm writing. Not necessarily when I'm reading. Sometimes I have to go back because I've skipped words.
You're gifted.
But when I'm writing, I'll go back and reread it, and I'm like, oh, wait, I clearly was typing faster than my brain was going, or vice versa.
I do that all the time, except that I hit send and then I'm like, fuck.
See, I don't do that anymore because I've gotten myself in trouble.
I should have totally
Copy and
not
paste, make some adjustments, but don't change the name. Whoops.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll tell you, one time I was replying to the vice president of our union, of something that happened on the floor, and I was extremely, like, irate, and I I put in some names in the to field, and I didn't realize that I used the all company like mailing.
Oh, smart.
Yep. And I sent the email to the entire company. That was like year 2 in. Yeah, I learned my lesson. Year 15. It's like, no. By the way, 15 years.
I saw that. Congrats.
August 7th was 15 years at my current company. It's insane. You're right behind me. You're
13.
Yeah, 13 for you.
In September, it'll be my 14th year.
Right.
Wow.
No, yeah.
Time flies when you're on Prozac. It just
13
all merges.
years this coming month.
Right, it merges together.
Yeah.
Can you believe that I've been at the Schubert for a year and a half next month?
Yes.
Time flies.
It's crazy.
It feels like you just started.
Because you started in 21.
Not to me.
Not anymore.
So, going back to this whole book thing, I mean, you know that for me, in order for me to read something, I really have to be into it. Like, there has to be some things that trigger my interest in reading. And because I fall asleep, I read a chapter and I'm like, boom, I got to take a nap. And then when I wake up, I got to read it all over again because I forgot what I read.
Yeah.
It's a problem. I think it's an issue that I have. But one of the very first times that I actually read something that I really was interested in is I remember watching the first Elizabeth, the movie with Kate Blanchett, and I remember being fascinated by that whole period of the English monarchy. And then I went to the Yale Library and I just started reading stuff and just really educating myself on this whole thing. And it just opened up this incredible world. And then years later, the next time that I actually read a book and then listened to the other two, along with a couple of other books, was when we had Hans Hershey on the show. I remember reading, Stories Beneath the Rainbow, which is one of the first books that he featured on our show, and then a couple of other things that he's released. And we've had a lot of authors on our show.
Yeah, we have.
Which have prompted me to get a little bit more inquisitive about reading and opening my mind. And then, with my recent fascination with things like Game of Thrones and reading those books, and then now listening to Fire and Blood and the new House of the Dragon. So I have to say that I'm more in tune with being able to read a story and conceptualize what it looks like, and then what my expectations will be if they ever produce a show out of it or whatever it becomes. But I've been reading more and listening to books more, thanks to you, because you got me hooked on Audible, more than I care to admit.
I mean, you shouldn't be embarrassed.
And I do that at work because I know I can't take naps there. Somebody was bound to slap me upside the head.
I literally, in the morning, I wake up and my earbuds are right by my bedside charging, and I pop them in and I start listening to, I usually listen to a chapter, have my coffee, my breakfast, and then I get ready for work.
Nice.
Well, that's cute. I like it.
I mean, sometimes it helps with decompression. Not today.
So it looks like we're on a decent trend when it comes to weather. Starting to get a little cooler. How does everybody feel about that?
I mean,
are you happy that we're about to go into fall? Are you a person that likes fall to begin with?
fall's my favorite season.
What about you?
I don't mind it.
I like it.
I like it.
But for me, it's like certain things bother me. Allergies. Things are dying. Shit is sprouting and decomposing, and you're just breathing all that in. I'm not a fan of picking up leaves. And when you own a house, you have to either hire someone or pick them up yourself, and that's a lot of work. And this bitch doesn't come over to help me.
I have helped you.
She's supervised.
No,
She'll stand at the top of the hill and be like, you missed the spot.
No, I have helped you.
You see how she's laughing? She knows it's true.
No, I do that a lot.
I know.
But I have helped you.
See, for me it's worse because my property is a corner property, so I got to pick up my backyard, my front yard, and the entire perimeter of the corner because all the stuff blows over into my side.
And she lives in Bridgeport, so there's a couple of hookers she's got to move out of the way.
Yeah, we gotta move some hoes over and clean some stuff up. Nah.
It's all great and dandy when you own a home until you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And I remember for 2021, I hired someone to come in and do the property because I was just like, 2020, I was exhausted. I was like, I'm home. I'll do it myself. And then, 2022 rolled it along, and I was like, no, I can't afford this. So she has to go out and do it. Yep. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I am looking forward to the cooler nights, being able to turn on the fire, the chimenea.
Yep.
And, burning all that wood from all the trees we cut down in spring. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be
but
nice.
I am not looking forward to, winter.
Yeah. I mean, I love fall, but then also my season starts at the theater. So then it's like, I don't know, time for yourself.
But, you've got an interesting lineup coming up this fall.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's going to be a great season for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. What about you? Are you, aside from fall, are you a winter person? Do you like winter? I mean, who does really?
I don't mind the cold weather as much. I hate having to clean up the fucking snow. That's like
everybody does.
That's my main thing. If it
Right.
wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be as. I don't know. As far as driving it in, well, we have the right vehicles for us.
That we do.
That I could tell you 100% no issue with.
Did I ever tell you the story how we ended up with the same vehicles?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I took him with me to buy mine, and he ended up walking out of the dealer the same day with a carbon copy of my truck, except his was green and mine was silver. I was so mad at him.
And he's like, I came here for me. I was like, I didn't.
I had to wait a whole week to get my truck.
Yeah, mind you, I was not shopping for a car.
No.
I was not. I took Tommy so he could look at a car.
And he saw the green, and he was like, you should totally take that one. I was like, nope, I want something that has like 2 miles on it. And his had like 10,000 at the time.
No, not even. It was I think it was like 500. It wasn't even 1,000 miles. So one of the managers was using it to get
Right.
back and forth to the house because they allow that.
How dare he?
And and I actually had my new Toyota, the Corolla, the black car, remember?
Right.
That car was mint. And I took him to see my sales guy, and Tommy's talking to him, and he's like, you should look at it. And I just looked at the truck. He's like, you want to test drive it? And I was like, no. He's like, you sure? And I was like, no. You know what?
And he took
If
it.
you give me a good deal, I'll take it.
And he did.
And
And he
same
left
day,
that dealer well before I did with my car. I had to wait a whole week to get
whole
mine.
week.
I was so mad. I was like, how dare you?
But
So that's really exciting.
it's a
It
great.
really is.
It was a great investment. Those trucks. Have
It was
been,
a promo moment.
yeah, Bromo.
Bro homo.
Exactly.
Cute. So
So
I wanted to talk about something
What you want to talk about?
really quick
It
because I know.
scares me when he says that. You do realize that, right?
Oh no. This is fine. This is like a fun and uplifting whatever. So
whatever.
do you guys
whatever.
remember New Kids on the Block?
Oh my God, yes.
That was your like heyday.
Okay.
He's about to get cut. He don't. Let me mute his
All
mic.
right. So who was your favorite New Kid on the Block?
Brian McKnight. No, sorry, that's another singer. Oh God,
Jonathan Knight?
Jonathan Knight. Yes, and he has a show.
So that's what I'm
Okay.
So I just started. We're obsessed with HGTV.
Yes, we are.
And so he has the new show on HGTV. It's called Farmhouse Fixer.
Or the renovation.
Yeah, and all of it takes place in New England, where he
Right.
goes around and he fixes these farmhouses up. And I mean, his renovations they're beautiful, and they always kind of incorporate something special. Like there was one family that really loved chickens, so they made a chicken coop. One family was really interested one family lived on a large plot of land with a lot of poison ivy, and they liked goats, and goats eat poison ivy, so he got them goats.
Right.
And like there's all these like cute things that he does throughout the show, but I didn't know that he was gay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he's gay.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's gay, and he just married his longtime boyfriend.
I was gonna say, are you
Harley
gonna run up there?
What?
Are you gonna run up there and like propose?
No, it's too late.
It's too
I
late.
mean,
He's very attractive.
Missed
He's our
opportunity.
era, right?
like my flight. Missed opportunity. But he just married his longtime boyfriend, Harley Rodriguez.
Oh, so he's into Latinos. That means I have a chance
Oh.
if they get
And
divorced.
look at him because he is adorable.
Oh, he's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So did you notice though that he leaves a doll of himself from when he's in the New Kids on the Block on people's like properties, like in
He's done that once so far.
conspicuous places?
He's done that one time. One time he was working on a superfan's home,
Right.
and went through like his like tchotchkes of like all the different stuff. Also, they still tour.
Yes, they do. They go on tour with like what's the other boy band? Not Backstreet Boys. So they had this whole boy band like extravaganza where they had the different boy bands, 98 Degrees, Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block. Wait, I can't remember what was the song that they sang. Joy McIntyre is also one of the members of New Kids on the Block. He was a cutie too.
Yeah, so you got him, and then Lance Bass was the gay one. Is NSYNC going to come out with somebody?
Oh, I don't know.
We'll see.
Well, wait. Lance Bass was in sync.
So the Backstreet Boys
is the one that we don't know.
Right.
Although I always suspected Howie was, but I just don't know. And that's okay. If he is, if he isn't, it's no big deal.
Yeah, but I mean,
interesting.
That's really just the story. I mean, the show is really great if you like HGTV. Also, I love to generally support any LGBT artist that has a show or whatnot. But it's a great show.
He's very handy too. And in the last episode that I saw, which was probably yesterday, he was doing a chicken coop, but he was doing a modern one, and so he painted it black.
Oh, nice!
And it looked amazing.
So it was funny. So yesterday I was at an event and I saw Eric Russell, who is openly gay, married, black, and he's running for our state treasurer, won the primary, which is super exciting.
So he's going to be on the ballot in November.
And I was mentioning to him that, of course I did this because it's me, but I was mentioning to him that I'll always vote in the primaries, but I don't normally stay up to watch primaries.
Right.
Like, we always watch the national election together.
Right.
But like primaries, I don't really necessarily watch, but I stayed up to watch and see if he was winning. And then I saw that he was probably, going to win. And I stayed up to watch his acceptance speech. And in the first like couple of seconds, he said something. He thanked his husband, Chris.
Which was beautiful.
It was so beautiful. And it made me tear up because we just don't see that enough. The representation both in government, but also on TV. And I think that the fact that, this show, even though it's HGTV and, New Kids on the Block is referenced a lot, whatever, there are references to his partner and relationship. And I think that that's so powerful. And it just makes me really happy to just see more and more people being so visible in who they are and who they're with. And it just makes it feel like, even though it feels like we're kind of not moving in the right direction, sometimes it feels like we are.
I feel like we are.
And it's little things like that like, they just...
But I think that HGTV in general has done a really good job of incorporating a myriad of different types of people. For example, Nate and Nathan.
Oh yeah. I like that show.
I can't remember what their names are, but they're an amazing couple that do amazing work together. So you see that representation in a lot of the shows that they're producing, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
I think it's great. So on that note, we do have a guest, so we're going to have to take our break and make sure that we come back in time to welcome our guest. So we'll leave you for a couple of minutes. We will be right back. All right. Well, ladies and gents, thank you so much for allowing us to take that break for us to refresh and do all those good things that we need to do to continue for the second half of the show, which means, we have to get ourselves all restocked on our refreshments and all that good stuff, and make sure that we can continue. So we're back, and I want to thank you all for allowing us once again to take that little break. And now joining us on today's episode is a guest. Finally, we have one. Thank you, Nick. It's about time. But we love you.
Sorry, I don't do my job anymore. Got a promotion.
So we are going to be joined by JP DerBoghossian. I hope I said that right. He is the host of This Queer Book Saved My Life, a podcast that interviews guests from across the LGBTQ plus rainbow about queer books that saved their lives in many different aspects and in many different ways. And I want to thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. So first and foremost, before we get started, I know I've just read your bio, a little bit about you, but tell us a little bit about you. Who are you?
One sec.
What?
I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Jay.
It's been a while.
Hi, Jay.
I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, and welcome to our craziness.
Thank you. So we got to start with my name because you kind of got it.
Kinda.
So the first part is dare, like truth or dare.
Dare.
The next part is BOGO, like buy one, get one.
Okay.
Okay.
Then it's see, like I see you. And then Jan, like cute Jan from Norway.
Okay.
So
So-
DerBoghossian.
Okay. DerBoghossian.
Perfect.
Okay. We got that out of the way. I do
Right.
apologize.
No,
I-
you're good.
I am
It's
a Latino.
Armenian. Like nobody can pronounce it on the first go.
I am a Latino, and I tend to screw up a lot of things when it comes to people's names, especially last names.
Look, when we started the show, he didn't know how to say LGBTQ plus. Like that was, we had to have a sign for him.
I'm gonna cut him. Yep, he's gonna get it.
I mean, that was a long time ago. You've come a
It
long
was.
way.
I have, and I'm very proud of that. So, it is
It's
what
been
it is.
6 years, right?
6 years. Can you imagine that?
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And this upcoming March, it'll be year 7,
Wow.
and we're still not tired of it.
That's good.
We do this religiously, week in, week out. We've taken a couple of breaks here and there, but for the most part, yeah, it's been quite a wild ride.
Yeah.
I went 10 weeks and then I was like, I need a break. I need a season break.
And I have questions regarding your format and how you chose to produce your podcast.
Yeah,
but we'll
absolutely.
certainly get into that. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. JP DerBoghossian. I host This Queer Book Saved My Life, and I founded the Queer Armenian Library. As you can tell, I like books, and I like visibility of queer people. And so I'm Armenian American, and I saw no representation of queer Armenians in the world, and particularly in the media. And so I did I've written about this, and it's taken me about 4 years to put together this library of literally tracking down everything that I could find on the internet, both in print and out of print and digital publications. And anyway, long story short, created this library so that no queer Armenian would ever have to do that again. And then after that, I saw the world like every queer person does, going to hell. And I thought, we need to do something, or what can I do? And I was feeling very drained. I work in the field of equity and inclusion. That's my day job when I'm not podcasting. And I was feeling very drained doing that work. I live in Minneapolis. We were ground zero after George Floyd's murder. And so to be doing that work here was necessary, but also depressing and anxiety producing. And so I said, what can I, working with a therapist, I'm like, what can I do here? Like, I need something that's going to fill my cup back up. And so I used to work in broadcasting many, 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 many years ago. And I thought, oh, well, I know that field, but I don't want to get back into that. But I also love books. And why don't we need another podcast? I mean, there's only like 1 million of them.
Aren't they?
But that's where the idea came from, is how can I merge my passions for both of those things, and wanting to be more connected to the queer community, wanting to raise up queer voices as our books and our stories are being banned from schools.
Yep.
And how all this legislation is trying to ban us from, ban trans kids from sports, and ban doctors from providing gender affirming care, and all of the bans, right, that they're trying to put in place. And so I get a little skeptical about the straights saving us. So I said, we need to save ourselves, and we need to tell our stories. And we have this amazing storytelling tradition, and that goes even outside of books, right, with zines and oral histories and all of that stuff. So for me, because I love books, I thought, well, why don't we bring people on to talk about that book that saved them, right, that saved their life in some form or feature, however they choose to define saved, which every guest so far has defined that differently. And then the next step of that was, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could bring the author on, right, and have a conversation like the three of us? And that was like, oh yeah, well maybe, I don't know if that'll actually happen. And so we started getting some guests, and they started telling us our books, and I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. I want to see if I can get these authors, and they said yes. So a number of huge authors. I still can't believe the authors that have said yes and I've gotten to talk to. So that was a really long answer.
No, but it's okay.
It's
So
my
that's
turn to be the
perfect.
guest, and so
It's
I'll
an
just
amazing
go
thing.
at this point. So,
So tell me, like, so this is your first season. Tell me, what was the most impactful moment on your show, whether it was with an author or whether it was with a guest who was telling you about their experience with a book. I don't know if you listened to the first half of our show, but I love queer books. Like, that's all I listen to or read. And I mean, I love the concept of your show. So I'm wondering, like, what was like the most impactful moment for you so far?
oh, am I going to be that guy? And it's like, they're all impactful. I will share some. Okay, the second episode was with Gary Nygaard, and he was talking about James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room, right? Which I was excited. I'm like, oh, here's a classic, right, of queer literature. And as we were getting into it, I was like, oh, can you kind of unpack what's happening here for me? Because you kind of have this take on the characters that you're like, I don't really like them. And he goes, oh yeah, no, I didn't. He's like, this was a roadmap of exactly what I didn't want to do, who I didn't want to become. And I was not expecting that, for someone to come on to the show and talk about a book that saved their life by showing them exactly what not to do. And so that was a moment of like, oh, wow, I hadn't even thought. I thought the books were going to be, this is what to do. This is how to love. These are how to make good choices. And he looked at Giovanni's Room and he's like, nah, I'm good.
That's interesting though, because you often try to be selective of the people that come on the show. We do it, and try to make sure that the content that we're about to provide, one, meets our standards, that we think it's going to be something that our listeners are going to want to listen to, and often you get what you look for, right? You want people to talk about, their favorite authors or authors that inspired them to do things in ways that are favorable, but very seldom do you get individuals that they're not, blaming the author in any way, but totally surprise you with, I read the book, I loved it, but it was really a description of everything I just didn't want to be. And I think that is genius.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the story of which is the story of so many folks on the show. And there was one, Zaylor Stout. He's a lawyer, author in his own right, really good book. Our Gay History in 50 States is the book that he wrote. But he was talking about how he said he identifies as Black, and he's like, they don't teach Black history in schools. He's like, but I grew up in a Black home, and so I was able to get my culture and my history at home. But he said, as a gay man and as a gay kid, I didn't get that. I had to go out into the world and find that. And, he was telling a story about how when he was in high school, he was a poet, and he was literally combing the library for anything, right, that was queer or gay, to try to find his stories, to find out who he was. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of putting the conundrum that we all face, right, as queer persons, that we are, unless we're lucky, to have, right, a sibling or to have a parent, right, who maybe, bi or pan or ace, that, we have to go looking for. We have to find our stories. And that it's tough. It's tough, right, to do that. I think another moment that was really impactful for me was the episode with Ellie Krug and Jenny Finney Boylan. And Ellie is, in her own right, she's amazing. She's the first trans woman, first transgender person to argue as a lawyer, argue in front of the Iowa Supreme Court, right? So she's history making in and of herself. And she read Jenny's memoir of Jenny's transition. And she said it was just a wake-up call, like to pivot finally in her life, and all of the things, like, and how Jenny went through the different stages of her transition, including medical transition. And then Ellie was sharing that journey. But she said, as I'm reflecting on it, and she said this in the show, she's like, it really didn't, your book didn't really save my life. It helped me save my own life.
Yeah.
And I just loved that moment of her being able to tell Jenny that as well, right? In the show, that, how did she put it? I'm so lucky I was able to be brave. That's the episode title. And that was such there's moments on the show where I turn my mic off and I'm like, just keep it together.
I know, I just cry on air, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But,
and I record it on video and then I throw it out there. And
when she started doing video, I was like, really? Do we have to do this? Because I'm an ugly crier. Like, it's not pretty.
Mm-hmm. We agree with
we've all
that.
done it. I remember, when Pulse happened, right? We were devastated that our community was affected in such a way and where we felt that our safe spaces were no longer safe, right? And that we had to have 20 eyes all around us anywhere we walked because those perceived safe spaces were no longer safe. We initiated an entire series for 49 episodes called Angels and Assholes. We would feature and talk about one of the victims of Pulse, and then we would shame senators that voted against sensible gun control reform. And we did this for 49 episodes and featured an artist. Melissa Etheridge came on to talk about her song Pulse, because she had written a song 2 days after the event happened.
Yeah.
And every single time we started reading about these individuals, it was waterworks for us. And
it was one of the most powerful segments I think we've ever done. And I think actually leading me into my next thought or question for you is, when we did that segment, for me, it almost solidified our show, our relationship. It was that first, like, oh my God, this means something to people. We're doing something, and it means something to us. And I'm already getting teary. I don't know if you can tell.
Don't cry.
But that's fine. So I guess my thought for you is, through your first season, I know we all get feedback. Some's great, some's not so great. I get slammed sometimes. It's fine. But what is some of the feedback that you've got from your listeners that's kind of been like pushing you to keep going?
The main feedback I would say I get is that people hear a show and then they reach out and they tell me what their book is, and they don't realize that I'm then going to say, well, now you're coming on the show. So I think that what I love about that is that they're hearing the episode and something is getting, maybe triggers the wrong word, but something's setting them off and going, oh, this is my book and I want to tell my story. Or I even get people that are like, I couldn't even, they reach out to me and they say, I don't even know what book I would choose. And I'm like, you don't have to pick like one, you have lots of stories, right? I mean, if you want to be on the show, you have to pick one, but it's really the most interesting feedback I've gotten is when people either unsolicited or otherwise come up to me virtually or otherwise, and they start telling me their story. And I just take that to mean, even if they're not even talking about the episode they listened to, something resonated with them and they want to tell their story and they need to be heard. And I think that's another thing that I like about the format, is that both the guest and the writer can be heard, right? And the why they wrote the book and why they read the book and what it meant for them and how they were changed by it. But otherwise, the feedback is just kind of the standard, I mean, I don't know how to do, I mean, I guess I'm really lucky. I only have like 24 folks have put reviews on Apple Podcasts and they were all like 5 stars. And I'm like, isn't that like a standing ovation? Like in Minnesota, everybody gets a standing ovation when they do anything. Like you can go to like the worst show and like everybody gets a standing ovation. So I'm like, I don't know how to deal with the reviews right now.
Well, the amazing thing is that you created a space for these people to come and say, hey, although I may have not read the book that you're talking about in this episode, here's my story. You've created a space for people to actually approach you, and you've opened the doors for people to be able to do that. And that is the beauty of podcasting. And a lot of people don't realize is that when you start talking about things, sometimes your audiences find you, or sometimes you find your audience. In the sense that you're allowed to have an opinion and dissect that and talk about things that impact people in the world and things that are happening all around us. And eventually people find you. And like Nick said, we've had a lot of great things said. We've had not so good things said about us. And it's okay. It happens. We roll with the punches.
It's mainly about me, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
It's when I get on my
happens.
soapbox
Yeah.
and start talking about crazy shit.
Yeah, and it happens. But my question for you is, so you created this format. You're doing a seasonal podcast. You wrapped up season 1. I believe it was 10 episodes, right?
Yes.
And why did you decide to do a seasonal podcast versus an episodic podcast, and where you're creating content every week? Do you think that that would be too much, or are you doing exactly what you set out to do?
well, the episodic weekly was the plan, but I have a day job, and I thought I was trying to get like 3 months ahead of schedule, and what I ended up doing was recording 3 months worth of episodes, but I do a lot of editing in there, and there's a lot of other things, and so I found it was taking me up to about 8 to 10 hours an episode, and I didn't get ahead of schedule as much as I should have, and so then I was like cranking one out like week after week after week, and one of my partners is I just stepped up and is now my producer to help me out, and he's like, we can't, you're burning out here, we need to take a break, and so I said, yep. We're going to hit 10 episodes. We're doing a season break, and we're going to regroup here. And so when we debut the second season on October 4th, we are going to be ahead of schedule. So hopefully that will mean that we are more sustainable moving into the future. But the goal is to be ultimately weekly. But
It's quite
I have
an
to stop
interesting
working.
thing.
But the podcasting doesn't make me money yet. So.
Right. Doesn't ever. But I will tell you that for us, that's the whole reason why we said, you know what, we're going live. We're going to do it live, nonstop, one run. What's said is said. We don't edit. We go straight through. And we say hello. We say goodbye. We cut the episode, we publish it, and there it is. And it is allowed us, in a sense, to step up our game, right? Come to the show, no dead air. I was listening to your recap of your season, and you were talking with your producer and your partner, and you were talking about, how you like to make sure things, there's no ums and no this and no that. And we have to make sure that, we're on point. And I kept thinking to myself, those are the things that we had to work through while we were on air. Yeah. If you listen to some of our early stuff back in 2016 versus what we're doing now, we are like completely different. But it's like we made a conscious decision. If we don't want to sit here and edit for 8 hours,
which we've done before,
which we used to do in the beginning, we need to do it live. We need to bring our A game, and we need to do what we have to do. And we've been doing that ever since.
Yeah,
it's insane.
That's great.
Yeah,
we did a live event last Wednesday, so a week ago today, and that was
intimidating, isn't it?
That was to do it live for the first time and to do it in front of an audience. I thought, oh boy, because there's sometimes where I get going and I don't like try to be Terry Gross about it. Like I have a list of questions, but I also kind of just want the conversation to go where the conversation goes. And what I like about the recording is that I can kind of pause and think about, okay, I've asked those questions. Okay, actually where I want to go is this way. And that works when you're recording it, but when you're suddenly in front of an audience and you've paused, and like afterwards, my partners were like, "Were you okay? Like you really kind of felt like you lost track there." And I'm like, "No, I was thinking."
Right.
So,
well, I mean, the good thing I would say about our show is there's always somebody to pick up the ball that's dropped. You know what I mean? So like we'll get through something and then it'll be like this moment, and then all of a sudden we're on a new topic.
Right.
But lately I feel like
no dead air.
But
no dead air.
Lately I feel like we just don't shut up.
We do that well. But
what I like, if I can say, because I've heard podcasts, like I've obviously been like listening up for prepping today, and actually I really like it, and I want to know this 49 episode. Let me know what that is. Like I want to promote that because that's why A, I want to listen to all of them, but B, I also want to get the word out about that because that sounds phenomenal. And I think I just lost my train of thought. Oh no, what I like about your set is that it doesn't feel like you're talking all over each other. Like there's some other like group multiple host podcasts where I'm like, some of y'all need to shut up and let someone talk. So I really appreciate how you all like talk with each other, and it just feels very fluid and natural and in depth too. You're very thoughtful about it while being funny, which I also appreciate.
And we try to, but don't get us wrong. There's some secret pinches under the desk, like
Or text messages.
or text messages, or I'm on the computer like, guys, and we need to wrap it up, move it along, and it happens, and it's just beautiful. But we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about
100%. So
It's about community.
I want to.
True.
I know you have a very important question that you want to ask, but before we get into that, I want to ask you what the book was that saved your life.
You took my question.
Oh, I thought your question was something different.
No, that was it. But go ahead.
Sorry.
You
Is
have
that the
another
major
question,
important
though.
question?
No.
I do.
Yeah, you did.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
The book that saved my life is A Home at the End of the World by Michael Cunningham. It is a novel that was published in the early 90s. And the reason why I say it saved my life is that when I first read it, there's these three characters, Bobby, Jonathan, and Claire. And Bobby and Jonathan meet when they're in like middle school. And I really identified with Jonathan. And then I was like super attracted to Bobby. I was like, why didn't I have a friend like Bobby when I was in high school who could just, get me high and, be subversive, right, in that way. And then like listen to rad music and wear, hippie clothes and all of that fun. And then they, Bobby's about trying to find home. And I think that really resonated with me about where, like, trying to find home. And Jonathan moves to New York. And then Bobby follows after him. And Jonathan is roommates with Claire, who's amazing. Just this really interesting character. And what ends up happening along the novel, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, is that Bobby, Jonathan, and Claire end up having a poly relationship. And they move out into outstate New York. Oh, Woodstock. They moved to Woodstock, which is Bobby's idea, and it'll make sense when you read the book. And I highly recommend it. That was the first time I'd ever heard about poly, saw it, and I still, when I go back and read this book, it ultimately didn't end up working out, which I don't think is a spoiler. And I get really angry because every time I read the book, I'm like, come on, you're gonna figure it out this time. You're gonna make it work.
You're cheering for them.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, they don't, and I get angry all over again. But it created this mental map for me about what I would want in a poly relationship. And, when did I first read this book? 23, 24, maybe in there. And when I was 29, I met my two partners, Jim and Gordy. And I had that basis for understanding what a poly relationship could be, how I would want to approach that. And that relationship saved my life. It absolutely saved my life. But I don't think that I would have gotten there if I hadn't read A Home at the End of the World.
Right.
And also, like, being able to be a queer person just living day to day. That's what I also loved about the novel, is that it's just queer people living day to day. And there's not the drama of coming out. There's not the drama of, physical abuse or a physical violence because, right, you're gay. It did, obviously, in the early 90s, there's an HIV storyline threaded throughout there, but it was just really lovely about how they were creating home and how they thought about that. And that just really impacted me on a very profound level, so that when I did meet Jim and Gordy, I was prepared and open to it in a way that I don't think I would have been, because I had some language and I had some ideas of how those types of relationships should work. So,
which was going to be my question. I wanted to ask about, because you also mentioned that on while you're describing how your season went and what you thought your best moments were, and your favorite parts of your interviews, you described the fact that you're in a poly relationship and that you had two partners, and I was very interested in knowing how that shapes out in your creative process. You have one partner that's actively engaged in helping you produce the show, and that's incredible to have support from so many different spaces and people.
But also to have, we always talk about representation in our community, whether it's gay, lesbian, bi, trans, but I rarely hear people talking about being gay and poly. You know what I mean? those conversations don't happen. And I think that representation is so important. So being able to be so open about it, it's kind of pivotal for the community.
Well, I think a part of that also has to do with, I mean, I think the stigma. Poly is always assumed, the third wheel. It's the same thing with bisexuality. It's you're not bi, you're gay. You just don't know it.
Right.
It's the same. It's the same thing. They don't. I have a friend that was in a poly relationship for several years, and they were doing fine, and then eventually, it didn't work out, and they went their separate ways. But it's possible, and then you have the other people that just want to have fun, and it's easy to blur those lines get blurred so easily.
Right. But also you have to think about the social pressures of people thinking that you should only be in a committed relationship and it should only be with one other person, and anything other than that is you being disingenuous with your relationship or being in a sense not being truthful or faithful to your partner, when there's a myriad of different types of relationships that exist in the world. And I just find it amazing when someone can articulate that and just be so open about it and teach people. And you're saying this book opened your eyes in a way that allowed you to actually embrace that in your current phase of life. And it's just beautiful. And I was going to actually ask you about it, but then you segued right into it.
So perfectly.
I was like,
That was his question.
I was like, I don't have to ask the question anymore. But I just think it's wonderful. And I think that we all need to be brave. We all need to tell our stories and love who we love. And people either can accept that or not. But in the end, that's not going to affect us.
I mean,
it shouldn't.
I still think there's a question in there, though. I mean, if you're willing, I know it's very personal, but if you're willing to talk about it, you have this platform. This is the book that saved your life. I mean, what does it mean to you to be able to share that with your listeners and with the world? I mean, people don't get to hear about poly relationships as much as we should in general.
I'm not sure I follow the question. Now, how does it feel?
What does it mean to you? What does being able to share that on your platform mean to you?
No, there isn't a lot of poly representation. I think this might be, it's interesting now that I'm reflecting on it. I haven't really gone out searching for a lot of poly representation, but I can't imagine there's a lot. And of my reading, this is the only novel or a book, otherwise nonfiction or fiction, that I've read that's had a poly relationship in it. Maybe I'm not as widely read as I thought I was, but
I just think maybe this is an opportunity.
I'm sorry if
for
I stumped you. That wasn't my intention.
For you to perhaps take an episode of your show and talk about that and break that down and
I think I want a guest host for that.
I'll do it.
Okay, there you go.
He's willing.
Well, we got to get Michael Cunningham to be on the show too. So, and if we can get Michael Cunningham, I probably will just pack it up at that point and be like, done all we can do for this podcast. We've had Michael. Goodbye.
I think it's wonderful. I think the work that you're doing is creative. It is unique. It provides a space for people to come and talk about, very delicate things in most cases. Because, when you talk about what inspires you to be you, there's a lot of things to unpack there. Yeah. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of, travels that we have to take, many forks that we've got to make decisions on. I need to go left. I need to go right. And what if I don't do either? What if I just stay where I am? And when you're making those kind of decisions and when you're thinking about unpacking a lot of that, as you say in your show, you have to unpack those feelings. And when you give someone an opportunity not only to tell their story, but to share that story with the person who wrote the book, that is powerful. That is some really powerful stuff. It's incredible.
It is. I recommend obviously I recommend all my episodes, but the one with Laura Lillibridge and Alison Bechdel, because there's this moment. So Laura Lillibridge is an author in her own right, nonfiction. And at one point when she was writing her memoir about her queer family that was difficult right, growing up, her queer family, and Alison Bechdel, Fun Home, right, is all about this, difficult family that she grew up in, and that was also queer. And Laura was literally telling us about how she'd write and then go to bed at night and just stare at the ceiling going, Allison told her story and lived. Allison told her story and lived. Allison told her story and lived. It's going to be okay. And Allison heard that and was like, oh, wow. And so they had this really lovely moment talking about how they navigated family politics and telling their moms about writing their book. So it's a really interesting exchange between the two of them of how they went about doing that, how they kept themselves going in doing that. And there's been a couple times where you'll see in the episodes where you can tell that I just turned my mic off because I just disappear as the host completely from an episode because I'm like, just go, just talk, just have this conversation. I'm always hoping to create that moment for the guest to have that time with this person that had such an amazing impact on their life. And I also think it's important for the authors. I'm sure they are inundated with people all the time. They're talking about, I loved your book. I loved your book. But to sit down with a person and listen to them spell it all out and then be able to interact with them, I think has been powerful for the authors as well. So,
right.
Or at least I hope so. That's why they keep saying yes to being on the show.
I mean, I see that as a trifecta. You're getting to do the work that you love. They're getting to, see what the work that they've done, how that has impacted others, and those that have been impacted by such works are being able to vocalize. You're creating space, and that's a beautiful thing. That's an amazing thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd be the one guest on the show, though, that would be like, so why the fuck did you do this? Like, that decision was not okay.
He would. Absolutely. Absolutely.
She should still be alive, and they should be together.
I
love that.
Totally see it. So, a question for you. So, you decided to go currently seasonal. When do you expect your next season to come out?
October 4th.
Oh, nice.
And it's already recorded?
Say again?
It's already recorded?
Yes. So our season premiere our guest is going to be Joe Perazzo, who is talking about Breaking the Surface by Greg Louganis, and Greg joins us for the episode.
Do you know who Greg Louganis is?
I don't.
He's an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
4-time gold medal winning Olympic athlete.
He's a swimmer, right?
Greatest diver of all time.
He actually had an accident while he was competing.
Yeah, he's the one that hit his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he was HIV positive at the time.
Yeah, it was all over the news. I remember
and
that.
it was a big thing. It was a big thing. And he obviously, that wasn't the way that, the world should have found out that he was HIV positive, but it was, and it was very traumatic for him. But there was a lot of backlash, and we're talking about, early 90s. So, I was around, you were around, you understand the logistics of what HIV and AIDS was then, compared to what it is now. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be powerful. That's insane.
Yeah, he had to do his coming out stories with Oprah and Barbara Walters. Right. So that was
something else.
Something I will say that it's still sitting with me is that when he decided to write his memoir, the publisher, and I'm blanking on who the publisher is, had a writer write with him, and it wasn't a ghostwriting because the Eric is credited on the book, and Greg didn't know this until afterwards that the publisher was pushing Eric, the co-writer, hard to get the book out within 12 months because the publisher was like, Greg is probably going to be dead because it was the 90s, and so they were pushing him to get this book out. And so all this time, I'm like, it was just the way that the book came about and was written, it was just really, really fascinating to hear that story.
That's insane. Well, my friend, I believe that we are getting to the end of our time. What was that?
It's me.
It's you?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I always make everything go longer than it should go.
No, it's obviously amazing. But I do want you to please pimp yourself. Tell us how our listeners can reach out to you. Tell us where, your website, your social medias, all that good stuff.
No, I actually I want to talk about one more thing. Oh, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Go for it.
So I want to talk about the Queer Armenian Library. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So have you had any authors on that you showcase on the website?
Yes, 2 of them.
Yeah.
So our premiere episode featured Nancy Agabian as the guest, and she was talking about Carmen Marie Machado's In the Dream House. But Nancy is, I mean, she's a Lambda Literary Award. I mean, she won the Jean Cordova Prize a couple years ago. Like, she's an author in her own right, but her book was actually very influential on me. Her memoir, Me Is Her Again, was the first book that was ever published by a person identifying as bisexual and Armenian. And then, sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. Bad podcast, head guest.
Oh, you're fine.
The second author was Michael Barakiva, which was our season finale. Oh, I just realized I bookended the first season of the whole season with Queer Armenians. But the season finale was with Michael Barakiva. He was the guest talking about Dreadnought by April Daniels. So that was the author. But he wrote One Man Guy and Hold My Hand, which are he is the first Armenian American to write YA fiction with a gay Armenian protagonist in them. So they were both history makers in their own right. And if you like YA fiction, love. Like, if you like Heartstopper, you will love One Man Guy. I mean, it's a delight. It's one of those books that I thought, why didn't I have this when I was in high school? And Nancy's memoir as well, Me As Her Again, is phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only reason I wanted to kind of highlight it a little bit is because it's actually very in depth. There's a lot of literature on the website, and it brings you to everything else that the author writes. And then also on your podcasting website, you highlight all the books. You can actually go there, click on them, and then buy the book right there, it's amazing. It's like creating access to books that a lot of people didn't know existed, which I just think is beautiful.
Thank you. Because of the work on the Queer Armenian Library, I actually got to be on the board of the International Armenian Literary Alliance, who's been super great. It's the first nonprofit ever devoted to Armenian writers, and they were being very intentional. Both Nancy and I are on the board, and they were like, we want to support queer Armenian writers. And the story has a point, because we ended up hosting the first ever reading ever global reading of queer Armenian authors. And it was on Zoom, and people were messaging me during the event, and they're like, I have never been in a room with just queer Armenians before. And that was wild to me. And there was people tearing up afterwards and staying with me on the Zoom call after it was over, because they're like, I just thought I was only the only one. Right. And we had authors too, that we had a panel the week after that, we called it firsts, right? That all these authors that had written first, right? So Nancy was there and Michael was there, and all of them were like, I just thought I was the only one writing. Wow. Didn't even realize there were other books like this.
You're becoming a super connector.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's I don't when I do interviews, it kind of sounds like it's all about me, but for me, I'm like, it's the light, I want folks to connect to the books. I want folks to connect to each other. And actually with the library, we're bringing on an editor, because I literally have no time anymore. So Natalie Cruz, if you're listening, she's going to be the new editor for the Queer Armenian Library, and she's going to help out with adding new materials. She has a whole vision for adding art to it as well. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen next with the library, because I literally haven't added anything all year, and it's starting to stockpile.
Well, just so you know, it's not all about you. Clearly, I mean, everything you do is about everyone else. So, Yeah, you're a super connector, and you have a great podcast, but you're doing amazing work that's needed to be done for both the Armenian community and the gay community. So, thank you.
It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you for the kind words. That's nice. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So, pimp yourself. Tell us. Pimp yourself. Give us all the information, all the social media connections. People, like to reach out and do all that good stuff. So,
yeah, there's too many social media things. So the podcast is at This Queer Book on Twitter and Instagram, and the website is thisqueerbook.com, where you can get transcripts. We try to make it accessible, so transcripts for all of the shows are there, episodes rather are there. You can find the links to buy the books. And then me personally, I'm at JP DerBoghossian on Twitter and Instagram. We have a Facebook page for the podcast. I think if you just go to facebook.com/thisqueerbook. I'm not on Facebook, or I hate it, but my partner is, and I think he just manages the page for me. It's one of those things that he does that I don't have to deal with. And then queerarmenianlibrary.com. And on Twitter and Instagram, the handles are at readtheQAL.
Read the QAL. That's awesome. Well, my friend, as we mentioned before, let me try this again. JP, right? DerBoghossian.
Perfect.
Oh, thank God.
Thank
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on our show and talk about your amazing podcast and the great work that you're doing in our community. You're more than welcome to join us whenever you'd like. If you want to come back and talk about season 2 when it's done and over with and do a recap, we're more than welcome to do that at any time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you've been doing for 6 years. I've been really enjoying getting to know your back catalog, and I cannot wait to hear the 49 episodes. That's going to be really amazing.
I'll definitely send that over your way. I'll give you, the where to go and find all the episodes that are cataloged on the website. But definitely, we would definitely do that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and hold a spot for me in season 3.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah. You have my email. We'll make that happen.
You're going to need an entire season just for him.
Maybe.
Just letting you know.
Love it. Love it.
Well, my friend, thank you very much. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your evening, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, ladies and gents, that, of course, I can't believe I finally got it right. That was JP DerBoghossian, who joined us to talk about his podcast, This Queer Book Saved My Life. I am just going to continue to listen to it. Obviously, I'm going to be excited for season 2. And we've come to the end of our show for today. And as always, Trish with her one more question. Which
It was an important one.
It was. And I love you for it because, sometimes things, when you're doing a live version, see, this is, sometimes I think to myself, maybe we should go pre-recorded. And then I think to myself, it's like, yeah, no.
That would be so much work for you. You would hate your life.
I probably would. It's like
You already hate your life.
I don't hate my life. No, but JP really said, like, he really put it into perspective. I have a job. And taking 8 hours to
That's why we switched to Wednesdays. 'Cause we couldn't handle the Monday.
Is tough. It's just incredible. Now, but I'm super happy that you booked him. Super happy that he came on the show, and really excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
So great stuff. All right. Well, I'm going to toss it over to my children in the studio. My babies, my brothers.
That's Oliver.
No, don't. They'll start barking.
Yeah, my bromos.
My bromos. I'll toss it over to Trish, of course. She's got Mama Kim's Minute coming for you, so here we go. Oh, wait.
All right,
She
everyone.
needs it again.
All right, everybody. Here's Mama Kim's Minute. Number 1, LGBTQ slang, exploring outdated and modern queer slang. Number 2, American Idol phenomenon Sanjaya comes out as bisexual.
Yas Queen.
Number 3, Pete Buttigieg, love you, sends heartwarming letter to gay teen activists in Florida. Number 4, fucker, Tucker Carlson suggests Biden administration puts chemicals in milk that turns kids trans.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Watch Fox News.
So that first story, the LGBTQ slang one, exploring outdated modern queer slang, I feel like we're probably need to like freshen up on that because we may be like outdated. Like
We are definitely outdated.
Yeah,
You know what's
My
fun?
ankle's
You know what's funny that yesterday I was watching something and in reference to the upcoming indictment possible of this asshole.
God, I hope.
But there was a snippet of another video that popped up. You know how you get those quick commercials,
Right.
And one of the Republican Party's candidates was saying that they put chemicals in the waters that turns frogs gay.
Frogs?
So
Frogs
now,
and amphibians. You know, there are some frogs in the world
who do have
that
automatically,
automatically change their sex when there's no males in the
Or
vicinity.
females.
Or females.
yeah.
They just transform. Like, oh, you're not here to give me some. I'm gonna give it to myself, and then I'm gonna reproduce.
Yep. But anyhow,
I want to be that human.
I see that, the whole chemicals in milk, and that's the first thing I recalled. And I was like, oh God, these
Chemicals
guys
and milks. Now we're gonna
these
have
guys
gay
are
daisy
more-
cows.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. We can talk about gay cows on the show, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or gay bulls. Okay.
I mean, or gay cows.
Right. It's all fair game.
They all come in all types.
I can't with them. All right. Well, I'm going to toss it over to you. Tell us what we have on this day in gay history.
Alrighty then, and brought to you by GayTalk 2.0.
No, I think today it's going to be brought to you by our this queer.
This queer book saved my life
That's right.
by JP
DerBoghossian.
DerBoghossian.
DerBoghossian. Like Dare Bogo.
Yeah,
See,
DerBoghossian.
There you go.
There we go. Took me a couple of tries,
We got this.
So on this day in gay history, 31st in 2001,
30,
so
30
the 31st, August 31st,
Thank you.
2001, in Canada.
I love messing with him.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
Canada.
oh boy, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal concludes that Section 30 and 31 of the Correctional Service of Canada constitute discrimination on the basis of sex and disability with regard to the Canadian Human Rights Act. Section 30 and 31 had led to Cynthia Kavanagh, a trans male to female who had been sentenced to life imprisonment for murder in 89, being sent to this institution for men, prohibited sex reassignment surgery for her despite the trial's judge's recommendation.
Interesting.
That's a lot of
Yeah, sorry.
information.
It was a mouthful.
That was a big one.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was the only one we had today. Sorry, Jay.
No, that's okay.
That sounded bad. I gotta practice next time. That was a lot of stuff in there.
It's our Guatemalaness.
Yeah, that's what
Our
my
Puerto Rican-
my Puerto Ricanness.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I want to say stuff in Spanish. I want to go Spanglish.
Well, we think in two languages. That's
the
important for
problem.
people to recognize.
Yeah.
We think in two and we speak in like five.
We speak none. We speak none correctly, neither English or Spanish.
Well, it is what it is.
It is.
Ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching our show tonight. You can subscribe to the show. By doing so, you get the latest and greatest of our show delivered right to your web browser or your favorite device as soon as our episodes are published. You can also support us on Patreon, which allows you, our listeners, to support the show with a monetary donation, which we collect monthly and can be in any denomination of $1 or more. Is that really happening next week?
That's why it says we're working on it.
Okay.
So next week, we may or may not have a G spot for you guys
Okay.
with Dr. G. And again, may or may not.
Yeah. With the day change, we are trying to reconfirm and reconfigure schedules.
Right. It's just,
Stay tuned.
you'd be surprised how much a movement of a day or two
Can
has to
impact the show.
Right. It's insane, but we'll work on it. All right, Trish, you want to try that?
Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you to our guest. I haven't said that in so long. Thank you to our guest, JP DerBoghossian, host of This Queer Book Saved My Life and creator of the Queer Armenian Library.
Which is amazing. All right.
Creator. No, not creator. That should be curator, shouldn't it?
And creator.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Man's worked hard.
Awesome. Yeah,
He's earned it.
that absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to toss it over to my queen because here's Nick with a weekly reminder for all you bottoms out there who want to keep their buttholes on point. Yes, we are talking about future method. See, enunciate, Tom. Let me give you some love.
Thank you, Tom.
Fairy dust, fairy dust, fairy dust.
All right, everybody, get the future method today. Each time you clean out with water or enemas, delicate tissues are harmed and cells are damaged, increasing chances of injury and or STDs. The first of its kind doctor-developed formula gently cleanses before you play without hurting your bum. Visit futuremethod.com to purchase your life-changing bum cleanser today.
And you can get the powder version now, too.
For your travel kit.
That's right.
And it's a nice
For you
kit.
traveling queens who want to go out there and don't
No,
wanna
Mom,
carry-
put that down.
Ma, don't put that in your coffee. That's not sugar and it's certainly not cream.
Get out of my dop kit.
Jay?
And as always, we would like to put a ring on it.
A ring on it?
And
I never understood why we said ring. Why do we say ring?
She always forgets. Your age is catching up with
I'm
you.
telling you.
Oh, okay.
You
Don't
forgot,
blame my
you
age.
forgot about the cock ring?
Oh, we
Oh.
still have it on?
No, he had it on, and right before you press record, he took it off in front of us, and I was like, "Did that just happen?" He's like, "Yeah, it was too tight."
He is
Yeah.
nasty.
was a while
Nasty,
ago.
nasty, nasty.
And our show is available on our website, GayTalk2.0 under our audio podcast. It is also available as a free download on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher Radio.
You can find us on social media: Facebook, GayTalk 2.0, Instagram, GayTalk 2.0, Twitter at GayTalk20. You can email us at GayTalk2.0 at GayTalk20.com. Tom, enunciate.
Do you see me? I'm over here touching my computer screen thinking it's going to move everything up.
All right, then just good luck.
Right. Well, if you need to reach out to us, just head on over to our website, click on the Contact Us tab. There you can leave comments, suggest topics, submit a question for the cast or an individual host. You can also submit a form to be a guest on our show. You can also call us and leave us a question via voice message. We can answer those for you on the show. Our phone number is 334 Gay Talk. And if you need all those digits, it is 334-429-8255. Don't forget that we do stream live every Wednesday, our new Wednesdays, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can access that live stream by visiting digitalstreamradio.com. With that, ladies and gents, that is our show. Thank you. And y'all have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Gay Talk 2.0. Tune in next time for more dish.